Here's a song that sounds similar to Test Press. One of their songs that I really like is called You. Basically, it's something that has lots of chords. They play in a really catchy pattern, and then you have the basic house or sort of techno-y elements in the track. So the most important part are those chords. And so let me show you how I made them. I started off with this pattern. So I started with the key in mind, which in this case, I think was F sharp. I assume it's a major chord. I don't know any music theory, so don't come at me. I have no idea how I actually ended up with this. As for the instrument itself, I have this free plugin called Rave Generator, which is super fun to play around with. I recommend it. You can add all of these unique sounds on the left, and they're all kind of 90s rave-ish sounds. So I combined a bunch of them, and that's how I ended up with this sound. To add a little more atmosphere, I also found this pad sample. And for the bass, it's just a derivative of those synth chords. And the kick is just super loud and punchy. As for the top elements of the drums, it's pretty straightforward. It has this open hat. And then I have this little ride rhythm. Then there's a bunch of other elements in the song, like risers and white noise, that make sure it has atmosphere and it flows smoothly from one section to the other. I think what's really key in these types of tracks is the modulation, and you need to be creative throughout the song because it's often just the same elements that are played over and over, but you want them to sound slightly differently. So for example, I have an auto filter so that the synth or the chords come in a little bit quieter and then they build up. Same with a side chain that comes on for the drop, and endless smile that increases here and there throughout the chords, and a reverb that plays when it's not in the chorus. And you play around with all of these elements so that it has more variation and oftentimes builds all the way up into a drop. But otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward and not that complicated type of thing to do. Because it's simple, and this is the case with all house music, you have to be very deliberate in the sounds that you pick because they matter all that much more. And especially for a track like this one, which doesn't have any vocals actually in it. And then to add a little bit of spice, the last thing I'll point out is that for the drops, I cut up the synth a little bit. So if you want to hear the song, this is what it sounds like.